Mr. Rishi Ahuja, who's founder and managing director, Sunnovatech. So all over to you now.
Good evening, everyone.
We also have Aditya joining us from
Yeah.
Sunnovatech.
Good evening. We will try that we don't make you sleep in the presentation anymore. Try to give you not just experiences, but all about how do we work in an immersive world. So I have with me Eddie, who is Director of Production with Sunnovatech, and we are going to be talking about our experience in terms of how we created immersive experiences using Autodesk softwares and what was our client's reaction towards it when we created that. So, very quick introduction. We are a group of bunch of passionate people, delivered 650 plus projects in our existence, operate out of 6 different global locations, which are, of course, India, UAE, which is in Middle East, Qatar, Japan, London, and as well as in Sydney itself. Tokyo in Japan, by the way. So, not keeping you far from what exactly we do and how do we actually come over here into media and entertainment section is a very different story. Although our products and the deliverables that come from for a very different kind of an industry, for design evaluation processes, for maybe it's you can call it AEC with Autodesk, or you can call it the architectural and the technical side and the engineering side, but our pipeline goes from entertainment industry, and that is where we use extensive use of products for M&E, and that is where we come into this particular industry. So I'll not speak too much. Let me leave you with a very quick showreel, and then we'll come on to the immersive virtual reality. And I hope it plays. So this is traditionally what we have been doing. And not just looking into creating environments which are primarily on the format of a screen, we were already working on a lot of immersiveness within the content that we were being generating. And of course, we don't just call immersiveness as something which is being prepared or which you see by using head-mounted devices, but actually how we actually immerse our customers within the content that we create and the amount of detailing that we do. In fact, when it comes down to technology, when it comes down to creating any such kind of a thing, we always look at Autodesk and we say, hey, this is the kind of a pipeline. How can we integrate various different types of mathematics? How do we actually integrate artificial intelligence within a kind of a pipeline that gives us flexibility in terms of producing these large environments and large contents on which there's going to be billions and dollars of investment worth which is going to wait and which people are looking at us that we can take decisions about it. When I talk about this kind of a thing, the decision makers may or may not come back from a very technical background in terms of understanding how different things work in an environment, but they wanted to have a visual aesthetic sense about that. So over the last, I would say, almost about 18 years within this particular industry, our major role has been creating immersiveness for infrastructure, from amusement parks, for infotainment, whatever it comes, in terms of creating digital content in 3D, that is what we have been doing around. Now, coming to today's topic and making it much more simpler, which everybody understands as immersiveness, we are going to be showcasing three different aspects of immersiveness where Sunnovatech had been utilizing. Of course, one comes from architecture, the other comes from entertainment, and the third one, which is very close to me, which is very social aspect of immersiveness of getting, I would say, or saving lives about people, when it comes down to the critical decision-making process. And this is where we are working, and this is what we are going to be presenting. I have got Addy with me. He's going to get onto the virtual headset very soon. And rather than we talking on the presentation, we decided we'll give you the live demonstration of what we do in immersive world. So, when it comes to Sunnovatech, we always looked at what are the most important ingredients when it comes to immersive virtual reality. How do we actually create that? And I mean, how many of you have experienced virtual reality? Wow. How many of you have felt dizzy after experiencing virtual reality? You have felt imbalanced, being dizzy? Wow, quite a lot. So this is one of the biggest concerns that we look at. And to overcome these concerns, we had worked about on various different aspects of virtual reality. One of the basic things is not just about motion or is not just about, I would say, the sense of being fixed, but creating a virtual content has to give you kind of a feeling how realistic the content itself is, that your brain is able to accept that thing. It is also very much important that it is not just the content that you are creating, but to what extent we can go for creating immersive content. Do we have interactivity? Can we touch something? Can we feel something? How do we hear the virtual world around us? Is it a static sound that is just traveling in a constant pace, which is telling your brain that, no, you're still not in a virtual content? So from creating just a virtual content to create a wow effect, we need to actually replicate, stimulations in our body, and this is what we have achieved by doing constant work onto the top. The most important thing is not the software that you choose. In fact, I stole this line from a movie and I modified it. It was a Vin Diesel line. It's not about, what software are you using. It's about who is behind the scenes, who is that particular creative guy who is actually utilizing that software and harnessing the power of that software that gives you these leverages. Now, for us, of course, it is 3D Studio Max that we use extensively. It makes our life easier. I know if I need to replicate something, we can work on the mathematics at the script at the back, and we can start replicating it at a very quick pace as well. Another key aspects about us choosing a particular software is the amount of time in which our customers look at us and say, hey, we need a product ready by yesterday, not by tomorrow. We don't get time and leverages where we can budget and say, hey, I'm going to give you a product in 4 or 5 months' time. The guy who is going to invest his money onto a project, he'll say, bye-bye, I'll see you tomorrow, and tomorrow may never come. So we have to choose something that can very quickly melt into a product which actually gives ease of working, and that's how it works. So this is what our software is, and as we say, the only thing that matters, who is behind the scenes, okay, and the creative power for that particular thing. Eddie, are you ready?
1 second.
Okay. So we're just changing some batteries. So let me give you some more gyan by that time. Guys, you need to be ready very quickly. All right. So I'll talk about my first project, and this is our immersive VR, creating of immersive VR experience for a living world scenario. Now, the requirement of this particular project was very, very stringent. This guy was working around to build an apartment, but he and his wife were very choosy and very, very picky about everything. They were never, ever happy about what furniture, what colors, how does the entire thing looks like. I mean, our client, who was an architect, he was going through a nightmare. And he says, I've done at least 20 such designs, and I don't know what to do about them. You have done so many different contents, and nobody's getting satisfied. And that was the time when we decided to move into an immersive world, but looking at the very particular preferences that the client who is so picky and so choosy, we need to go to something which is ultra realistic. Something that is actually can tell them and say, hey, this is what we are looking at. So we have to create various different types of tools within the immersive virtual reality itself, which is not only about giving them preferences, but actually give them an option to live within the environment as well. Eddie, are you ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
Okay. So Eddie is, can we switch over to the screen? You're still not started. Eddie, is it working?
It's loading.
All right. By the time it's loading, still loading. Okay. I think nobody launched it. Can I do it? Ready?
Yeah.
Can I launch it?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the experience. Both me and Adi are going to do some conversations actually about this VR experience. It takes some time to load on laptops like these gaming laptops. So this is where Adi gets into the immersive world. And I'm not giving him any support.
So you can all see me on the big screen?
Yes, we are all watching you on the big screen, Adi.
All right. So this is our apartment which we build real time. You can see I can move around my apartment and I can do a lot of activities. So it was not just immersive experience, it's just we want to make people live in an immersive world, do a lot of activity and feel like home. So this is our living room. Let's watch some TV.
Can you also play some music along with that, Adi?
Yeah. Let them play.
Oh, that's just mean. The defense of Williams after Suarez Navarro did so well to get the upper hand in the point.
Maybe like some good music on a whole. I'm a great fan of jazz. It sets the right mood in the house.
Anticipation, that would have felt good.
Why don't we go a little bit more deeper? What's inside?
Are you hungry, Rishi? So this is the balcony in our house, photo hall. And we also doing some barbecue.
Anybody hungry?
Everything in this house is handmade by artists. Each and every furniture that you see is done in 3 Studio Max, modeled it, textured it, shading, and we assembled this in Unreal Engine. Oh.
Don't fall. What's for the dinner ready today?
Yeah, let's see. I don't know. So let's go to the kitchen section. And I have put some toast. Where are they? Oh, there you are. Oh, they're well done.
One
Oh,
of
they're
them is
burned,
burnt.
actually. And I'm grilling a chicken here. I really love chicken. So you see, we are running this whole VR simulation on a laptop. It's a basic gaming laptop, not very high-end, not Alienware, but it's running so smooth with such a high-end furniture with a lot of details, all you can see here, a lot of props. And there, you won't see kind of a low detail or low poly objects anywhere in this house.
What about Eddie underneath the table? How does it look? Or
Oh, under the table you also want to see, Anshu?
yeah, why not? Why don't we
Okay,
go?
let's see some chewing gums if somebody has
Yeah, there are no chewing gums.
No, there are not some chewing gums. So, yeah, I'll take you upstairs. This is the entrance. So that's the entrance lobby. And let's go upstairs and find out what we have. Did I miss anything here? That's the alley to the kitchen. Yeah. And I can again go back. So I'll take you upstairs.
So the idea about when we were creating these kind of immersive experiences, the whole philosophy is that can people live into it? Can they actually feel like it? And can they relate to their preferences, of what our clients are actually proposing them? And it's all about mood modulation. It's not about creating a walkthrough, because a walkthrough is a piece of animation which has been created, a specific music, a 5-minute entertainment which says, hey, I want to decide about it. But over here, you live in this virtual world, and we had great references and customers, who spoke about different ideas from very simple things to be created.
So here you have a lot of options to do over here. Like if somebody wants to see more options on the furniture. They are not, oh, I don't like this bed. Let's show
This
me
was
some
the
more
fighting
options.
point between my clients,
So
regarding
we
the
have
bed.
more
What bed do
options,
they want? So we
real
actually
time.
created a huge library, but we are only showing you 2 beds, of course. And of course, different preferences goes with different things.
Let's switch on the lights.
What about kids, Eddie? Are they
Yep.
still sleeping in their room, or they gone out for play? All right, yeah.
Big house.
So if I have to give you a little bit of background, in terms of this model need to be created as in you have to actually live in it. There is no area that you can actually say, hey, I'm not going to model because that's not visible to my camera. When you make places or when you make immersive experiences, you have to even go into those particular details which may or may not be available from the design as well. people start looking about very simple, minutest details because you don't know what is going to be the duration of the immersive experience that some user will go into it. It could be something like 2 minutes, 3 minutes. It could be even something like 30 minutes or maybe 1 hour or 2 hours, depending upon what people are actually looking at. So the small detailing, to feel and imagine the immersiveness into these spaces is what it is all about, of creating an immersive experience that people can live about it. People can talk about it, people can dream about it, and they can come back to you and say, hey, can you do me a small change? Can you do me a small curtain change? I mean, people, I don't know, how many people are here from the walkthroughs industries and animations and apart from movies and entertainment? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Tell me one thing. How do you feel when it comes as a comment or a design change comment? Please change the curtain, the color of the curtains, or the texture of the curtains. Do you feel it good? Re-rendering, everything, once again. But when it comes to immersive experience, all these problems do not really look very complicated because we don't have to get into a procedure of re-rendering and changing things about, but it becomes a kind of a life cycle of a project itself where your client wants you to do more to achieve a better understanding of where he is going to live. So this is one of the experiences from the apartment, and the lessons learned from this particular project, in fact, led us to even a much bigger project, which is what we are going to show, that it's an extra and huge model that we created into an immersive virtual reality, which is more on entertainment side rather than more of a immersive virtual reality from the point of view of just architecture. So let me just switch over to that particular thing. Aditya, would you like to come back to AU?
I'm in immersive world, so you can put me anywhere.
So let's try to get Adi back into the real world itself. I'm going to shut it down.
Okay.
Okay, can we just change the slide? Yeah.
So you can load it?
No, it's loading it. I'll let you know. Okay. Now, moving on from a very small apartment-related project, our next particular project was to actually create an immersive experience for a themed entertainment park, which is not something small, but it was spread approximately about 12,000 square meter area. Now, if I have to talk about the size of that, maybe 50 times the size of this hall, maybe, if I'm right. Okay, so we can go back. Okay, and by the time Adi is getting into the hall, now this is a huge model, a huge, huge model. One of the biggest challenge that we faced into this particular model was how do we manage such a large amount of data? How do we optimize these data sets that are coming in into the model itself? And there's a lot of different components that are required to be done. Conventionally, these components will be done in terms of a pipeline that comes in Maya. There has to be a lot of interactivity that needs to get into the model itself. So we decided, okay, what we are great at, let's keep ourselves over there itself. So we used 3D Studio Max, and then we said, okay, let's start harnessing the power of 3D Studio Max. Now this particular entire theme park is just one single model. And to handle such a great model with so much of components was not a challenge, but that calls in for a technology and innovation to be done onto the top of that. How do we optimize even a single polygon in the model which is taking any kind of a bandwidth? And right now, what I'm running on, it's a very standard gaming laptop. We were showcasing this in one of the exhibit areas today, where we were using a really nice processor and a system. Things definitely go very smooth. But even in a gaming laptop environment like this, this is where we have gone into the next level of virtual reality by using Autodesk 3D Studio Max. And then optimizing, layers and layers of data, how things can work around, how we can make it look much more closer. Now, this was not the only limit of it. The limit was that our clients wanted to then experience how does it feel to go on a virtual ride. Now, this has not been built as of now. This is just in a vision. But before I touch to that particular area of going into the next level of immersiveness, this became a great design tool. Now, the entire theme park experience there's a huge team of artists who are working around it, doing a lot of sketches. It's a similar thing, to create a theme park, I would say, and to create a movie, because art is one of the very important component. The only difference is that rather than creating a temporary set, you're putting up a permanent set, and that's something which we don't want to get into right now in the conversation. The whole idea was that how do these sketches get converted into an immersive world? Because again, the investors of this project, they were looking at the convincing factor that what artists are delivering and giving to us can actually be accepted to go in for the production itself. And that is where we created this entire virtual reality platform. We can feel from every single hook and corner. Now they are looking at whether their design is good or a bad design, whether it is gelling with various different type of components, or how exactly it is going. So, Eddie,
Yep.
I know you're hungry. You're always hungry, back on food menu. Okay, so now I'll hand it over to you because you're now getting into a very exciting phase of this virtual reality stuff. So it was a mixture of various different things. This project was not just futuristic, it was not just a limited experience, but even if you look at the entire scene, the whole immersiveness was created with not just the visuals that were being created, but various different types of sound envelopes, which changes from one part to another part when you start getting into these particular environments itself. So you can go into all different zones, you can go into all different areas, and I think my friend is now trying to get into a roller coaster ride, which our clients were still skeptical, being an indoor theme park. They were not very excited whether people are going to get excited on this roller coaster or not. So we actually replicated that. We replicated the whole experience for them, that this is how you're going to actually look into when you get into this kind of a ride. So Eddie, you can talk as well.
Yeah, I have nothing to grab onto actually. I'm a bit scared.
So it's a big frame loss because of the data that we are transferring from laptop to the screen, but otherwise, still getting excited about it. And you're actually on the ride, Eddie, now.
Here we go.
How was it, Eddie?
That's good.
Was it exciting watching the roller
Very
coaster?
exciting. Anybody else wants to experience this? I'm welcome. So that's
Okay.
our virtual roller coaster. I'm not doing that.
Anybody wants to experience that on the stage? All right. Eddie, let's move on to the main part of it. So one of the key experiences, for this particular project, if we have to talk about, is the entire pipeline from media and entertainment side, and then taking it within an immersive world itself to create spaces that can talk to you, that can actually I would say, work in a way that you are able to not just only interact, but actually, but also, I would say, see, feel, imagine the power, of great designs that are being created. It is to take you into a journey into any of the spaces. Now, there are different ways people are using immersive virtual reality. There's a lot happening in engineering, there's a lot happening in entertainment, there's a lot happening in themed experiences, a lot of rides. I think in Mumbai, they also opened up a virtual reality theme entertainment center somewhere. But yes, the whole idea is about virtual reality goes hand in hand if you are uh, if you feel that you are not just creating a content, that is a regular content, but you have to always understand that are people going to live into this virtual spaces? Are they going to accept it? Is it easier for their body to accept the virtual content? And how well can you harness the entire imagination, of any particular environment? This is how we speak about virtual reality. This is how we talk about, the experience that it comes within this particular sector itself.
That's the magma blast.
All right. Okay, Eddie, yep. You can come back from the virtual world. Okay, can we move on to our presentation?
Thank you.
So this is not, the only thing that we imagined in virtual reality. As in looking at the capability and capacity of the 3D data that we possess today, we said, okay, this is from entertainment is good, even I would say architecture is good, but can we actually look at doing something for the society? Can we do something wherein we can use the same pipeline, the same products, and start looking at, can we save people's life, okay, using virtual reality? And with that particular quest, and a lot of brainstorming within our teams itself, we said, okay, let's try to do something, which is completely different. So there's a small story behind it, why I started doing this. Slightly emotional as well, but yes, I'll not get into that. But one of a very close dear guy met with a road accident, and one of the reasons why he was not able to walk about for a long time because the paramedics who reached on the accident spot not able to cater to him because they didn't know what to do, and it was very difficult, somehow he survived, but anyways. So we decided that let us use virtual reality to train first responders, I would call it police, I would call it the guys who report to the accident, the ambulance guys or something like that. And we found an overwhelming response to what our research was, and people were very much willing to get into that particular thing. Now this project is not yet completed, it is still work in progress, but with Autodesk family I have got no problems in sharing what we are developing and how we are coming up. So the whole idea about this project is that you cannot train people on a real accident because that time the priority is to save life of people. And you cannot simulate these accidents into artificial environment because you can never judge a criticality of things and the number of tasks to be done. So this is a small video that I'm playing at the background. This shows you a picture-in-picture experience of an accident site, what people need to do, and they have been given up guidelines to go from one part to another part. There is a police car, so basically you are a policeman, you need to report and you need to do a couple of activities while you are attending an accident call itself. And it is not just about creating one accident. There's a whole series why something would have happened. It could have been an accident just because of maybe somebody has jumped the red light, or maybe somebody has got distracted because of any other reason. So there are various different causes and various different intensities on what we are working around. And our job is to give them step-by-step guidelines, okay, and to showcase them, okay, there was some consciousness, there's another person into the car, how they should go, how much time are they going to do. So there's a whole artificial intelligence program that runs at the back and records the activities of first responders, how they're going to be working around. So this is what Sunnovatech do, create, and make, in fact, using Autodesk 3D Studio Max. We are now looking, not just looking, I would say the future is already started happening as we speak. We go out, every day there is a new virtual reality product. Every day there is a new outcome that is, or outlook towards the virtual reality, how it can be utilized. But in terms of creating a content, it is going to be a very big challenge, which is going to be quality, context, and the way people are going to respond to it. So there's still work in progress, not yet completed, so not yet been properly harnessed properly. It's just the first cuts that have been coming out for evaluation purposes internally. So this is what it is, and this is what Sunnovatech had been doing using Autodesk's products, primarily 3D Studio Max. And of course, we look forward, for a lot more things to be added to our pipeline. I'm also very happy I saw things about shotgun, which I was not very much convinced earlier, but I'm sure that over the next conference, when we come over here, we will have a lot more to talk about it. So I leave now to you for the questions, and we are more than happy to answer any of your queries.
Any questions, anyone?
Somebody pass the mic.
Okay, we have.
Hi, Rishi. I think it's a great presentation.
Thank you.
And two things. I think, VR is pretty niche, if I could say, at the current moment. So first question is, how did you guys enter into getting into such a niche business? How did you think that, this is, kind of the future? One. And second thing was, I've myself used a lot of, not a lot of, but a section of VR for creating ride films. Because especially when you actually see, I was creating something based on King Kong. So the screen was 200 feet high and whatever, really feet wide. There's no way that we could actually see that. So we had to really create something very similar and then just use a VR gear to really imagine ourselves seeing that screen. Right? So one of the things that what I was actually really getting on was the head movements, what we do, and then how they would actually translate into the scenario were very, it's not smooth. It's very, a little bit jerky. And if you actually see human head movements, they're quite smooth. So my question was, since I've been out of the VR for at least a couple of years by now, is there any technology where we can actually expect a gimbal kind of a movement, which kind of reduces the dizziness? So these are the two questions.
Okay. So let me answer your first question first. Okay. How did we got into VR? We've always been working on large-scale models, actually ultra-large-scale models using 3D Studio Max, and we were always looking at, not just to be a part of one particular way, the way we present, and being, prototype, doing projects after projects. So of course we started looking into virtual reality when Oculus One came out, and we started working towards it. Of course there was doubts about dizziness and everything that comes in, but to get into the level of VR where we reach today, there's a whole pipeline of processes that has gone through it, okay? It's not just that you pick up a model and throw it into something in VR engine and it looks amazing. You have to really do a lot of work behind it to do that. And we feel excited as Sunnovatech. We are a technology-driven company. For us, our IP is our mathematics and our artificial intelligence that we utilize in developing these kind of things, okay? So of course, virtual reality was the next big thing, and our customers were asking for it, to do it or not to do it. But of course, now, after doing a lot of work, we said, okay, yes, let us just go in and let's go in a full-fledged swing and invest a lot in terms of creating these pipelines within itself. VR does not happen overnight. You need to spend some time to create great VRs. Now your second question, where it comes to the experience. If I have to say yes, gimbals are there, okay? you can actually be, a gimbal can hold you and take you here and there, wherever you want to do. It all depends upon that who's paying for that gimbal, okay? Virtual reality, I would say you have to balance between, the imagination, and you have to balance between the right experience. You can use different simulators where you can sit around, move around. You will get that kind of a feeling which you normally get in 7D cinemas when you go out over there, which is good enough. But if you really wanted to create something like a King Kong experience, okay, then of course there is technology. The head movement, the jerkiness, everything is dependent on the method in which you create. Eddie, would you like to add something? Because he's the guy who creates
Have you
VR.
experienced any new VR using the Oculus Rift as the latest headset? The latest headset which the Oculus Rift has, have you experienced any kind of VR simulation on it? Yeah, so they have improved a lot
They have
in
improved a
terms
lot.
of the quality, and you don't feel dizziness. So we have even speed up the roller coaster, and it's quite a smooth ride. So you don't feel the dizziness or the shakiness in the ride or the simulation. You can even go higher for any kind of King Kong effect. If you want to like be swinging somebody and trying to throw somebody, so you can do that, and you just need a high-end configuration hardware to support that smoothness. So the higher the frame rate you get, the more smooth a person can experience the immersive simulation. Yeah.
So I hope we answered your question. Thank you. Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, we
Just a
have
couple
one.
of them, all right.
Thanks for the wonderful presentation. To some extent, my question has already been answered. Nevertheless, let me go ahead and ask the question. To what extent have you been able to solve the motion sickness problem?
There is no motion sickness.
Because what essentially happens is me as a user of VR, I'm stationary.
Yeah,
I'm just operating the controls and I'm still going through the motion. It is as if I'm moving through the house or walking through the amusement park, for instance. And that
All the latest applications what you see right now, they give you at least 30 seconds of intro. They let you settle down in the VR world or the simulation. They are intro where you've been asked to move around, look around, so that your mind and your eyes settle down in the VR world. And if you are going for amusement ride, it's meant to make you a little sickness, Otherwise you feel like, okay, I was just stationary, I was wearing this headset and watching like a movie. So the experience of an amusement ride has to give you a little bit of, that jiggle in your tummy and your head shake. So that's the whole experience. To resemble it as actual roller coaster ride or any other ride where you go up and down and shake you up. So, but you don't feel like dizzy. Give yourself like 15 seconds to settle down. Go with the intro if you have, just to settle down and with the latest Rift S, and again I said it has to be supported with the equivalent hardware. So if you don't have a good hardware and you're trying to load up a more shaky app, so it will give you a little bit of dizziness because your frame rate and your eye rate are not matching.
It's a very simple answer. The quality of the content make you feel better.
Yeah.
If your quality of content is, just like something, which is very artificial, very, very crude, you are going to get motion sick, no doubt. So that's why you have to work on very niche, fine details to make sure that you don't get into that particular situation. It's not something that you won't get motion sick. You will get, but this is something like utilizing technology for the very first time, and after a couple of times you have utilized this particular technology, you are into it. In the apartment, our customer, first time, she could not wear it for more than 5 minutes. 5 minutes was too much. I think 3 minutes. Okay. The next day, she was wearing it for almost 30 minutes. So it all depends how your brain is training yourself. But yes, quality of content, frame rate, you have to always keep an eye on that. A proper hardware. If things are jerky, you're not going to experience, you will experience motion sickness.
Thank you.
Any others?
Hi, great speech. This is more of a technical question. So nowadays there's a DataSmith plugin which we use to get the 3ds Max to Unreal. My question is the texturing, whether it's done on Unreal or is it done on 3ds Max and then brought into Unreal?
Texturing is done in Substance Painter.
Okay. And also, I noticed that you have a Alienware laptop. So
That's MSI actually.
the entertainment model, the whole thing was in that laptop. Was it was it on a server which was then combined?
No, it's all on the laptop.
Okay.
So you're running with the laptop.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay, so in interest of time, we'll just have one last question there at the back.
I saw your apartment thing. Now you said, like when you're modeling, there's no room for skipping your things. Like you'll have
Can you
to
keep your mic a little close?
you'll have to model everything. Like there's no room for skipping any of those areas. That was for the interiors. What about the exteriors? Would you take a 360-degree picture of a site and then put it there? Will it work, or do you need to model the exterior as well? Because when you see from balcony, you'll have,
We
you,
have
you
put a
can't just
model.
leave it open like that. So
We have put a model if you're not going outside, so you
Okay.
can even put an image. So it's no.
so an image from the site would do for
Yeah.
it.
Either you take it from the site, or
Okay.
you actually, use drones or anything depending upon which height this particular is going to come. So we need to do a little bit of homework before we start getting into it. We need to get onto the site. We need to make sure our data is right so that we have the best of the immersive experience. You cannot have a different photograph outside which is not going to look from your house.
Okay.
But again, it depends. If your client is paying you to build the whole city, you can build that. Otherwise, just live with a photograph.
All right.
At least that is good enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Thank you.
One last question over here.
One
This
last
guy
question,
was
and then we can-
raising hand
All right.
a lot.
My question is that how can we make VR experience more interactive in sense of when most of the VRs I have seen, even though I am moving and things are changing, it sometimes gets repetitive, and the surrounding movement is very important to have that feeling that you are actually immersed into the experience. So is that actually possible, or does it not happen in VR?
So you can see the amusement park, what we did, a lot of activity was going on. You see a lot of people interacting, going on, playing, dancing, standing. And the whole environment is moving. So you see all the rides are moving, roller coasters going around. So we created quite a live environment. So it was not a very static kind of a dead environment where you are just alone and there's nothing happening around you. So we kept focus that we give the realistic possible way to get the app run on a laptop. Otherwise, there's no end to add any more details. So you can add a lot of details. It depends upon how much hardware you want to put in to support that.
Absolutely.
And will VR get more photorealistic, as it is?
Of course it will. Of course.
Not. And it is still to a great extent has to develop. So what are the possibilities for VR in future?
Of course it is going to get photorealistic. There's a lot of photorealistic content already in the market. Just to let you know the power of VR, this model that you have seen, it contained 25 minutes of a constant animation of human characters, and we have utilized about 472 human characters within that model itself. So that is what we are talking about power of VR is today when you choose your pipelines to deliver. Photorealism is definitely there. The more time you spend.
People have achieved
Yeah.
photorealism. You just go to YouTube and just add photorealistic VR. You will see tons of examples. People have achieved like hyper-realistic movie style of VR. It just depends. You need a very very high-end hardware to support that with like 4x SLI graphic cards to run that. All right, thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much, gentlemen,
Thank
for
you.
being patient and listening to us. Thank you.
Everybody was keenly listening, but we'll still want you to wait on the stage.
Okay.
We have Mr. Rajgopal Nair who will do the felicitation. He's our account sales specialist.
Thank you.
Eddie, please be on the stage.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.